The invitation to the annual Sullivan family reunion sat quietly on my desk. Its fancy gold letters sparkled in the morning sunlight pouring through the windows of my penthouse. It looked elegant and harmless, like all the ones before it, but this time, things were going to be different. 15 years of living behind a mask, pretending to be someone else, were about to come to an end, and oddly enough, I hadn't even planned it. The truth was about to come out, not because I chose to share it, but because it was already out in the world. I picked up my phone and stared at the article that had triggered everything. The headline was bold and impossible to ignore. Forbes 30 under 40, the new face of digital art, Sophia Sullivan's NFT empire reaches $3.8 billion valuation. Tomorrow, the whole world would read it, just 2 days before the reunion. Perfect timing, or maybe the worst timing ever. Either way, the secret I had kept so carefully for over a decade was going to be public. The lie would be exposed. There was no hiding anymore. The intercom buzzed. "Miss Sullivan," came Sarah's voice, calm as ever, "your brother Marcus is on line 1, again." Of course he was. He'd probably been calling non-stop since the press release went out. I sighed and picked up the phone. "Hello, Marcus." "What the hell, Sophia?" His voice was sharp, tense. "I just got a call from Business Insider asking for a comment about my billionaire sister. Care to explain what's going on?" I leaned back in my chair, looking out over the Manhattan skyline like I always did when I needed to breathe. "I guess you'll have to read the article like everyone else." "Don't do that," he snapped. "You've been pretending for years that you were barely getting by. You let us all believe you were struggling. Mom and Dad were worried sick." I couldn't help but laugh. "Worried? You mean the lectures about how I was wasting my life? The way they'd sigh every time I talked about art or tech? That's what you call worried?" "They were trying to help." "No, they were trying to make me be someone I'm not, just like they tried to do with you. Only difference is, you went along with it." There was a pause, silence on the line. I knew I'd hit a nerve. Marcus had always been the golden boy. He did everything the way our parents wanted: business school, the MBA, joining Dad's firm. He played his part perfectly, never stepping out of line. "Just tell me one thing," he said finally. "How long have you been hiding this?" I stood and walked to the window, watching a helicopter land on a nearby rooftop. My helicopter, actually, one of 3 I owned. "Remember when I moved to that tiny apartment in Brooklyn? When you started with your weird digital art stuff? That was 15 years ago. Yep, everyone thought I'd lost my mind. Dad said I was throwing away my finance degree, but what nobody knew was that I had already sold my first NFT collection for 50 grand. 50,000, back then? And 6 months later, I made 200,000 from another collection. By the time Dad was telling people I was just going through a phase, I already had my first million. I could hear Marcus doing the math in his head, slowly realizing how long this had been going on. "But you asked Mom and Dad for help with rent. You drove that tiny car for years." "I didn't ask them for help. I asked them to invest." Big difference. They refused, over and over again. As for the car, it wasn't because I had to. It was because I wanted to, just like I chose to live low-key. This penthouse, the jet, the art foundation, they've all been mine for years. There was a sharp inhale from his side. "Wait, jet? You have a private jet?" I smiled. "The article will say I'm worth $3.8 billion. That's on paper. Real numbers closer to 5. Marcus choked a little. "Jesus. I have a board meeting now, so I'll let you go," I said, casually, "but I'll see you at the reunion. Let's just say, I'm planning a pretty memorable entrance." I hung up before he could say anything else. Then I pressed the intercom. "Sarah, is everything ready for the reunion?" "Yes, Miss Sullivan. The jet is ready. The car service is booked. Each family member will be picked up in a Rolls-Royce. The venue has been changed to the island, and all staff have signed NDAs." "Good." I glanced back at the invitation on my desk. For 15 years, I had let them believe I was the black sheep, the one who couldn't make it, the sister who needed help, the daughter who wasn't strong enough, the one who always had to be rescued. But this time, I wasn't coming to be pitied. My phone buzzed again, a message from Olivia. "OMG Soph, please tell me this Forbes thing is a joke. What's going on?" I didn't reply. Olivia, the sister who bragged about her 6-figure salary and her place in the Hamptons, the one who always made a show of covering the dinner bill while giving me pitying looks. The intercom buzzed again. Your parents are on the line, Sarah said, both of them. Tell them I'm in a meeting, I said, checking my watch. And Sarah, call the helipad. I think I'll take the chopper to the boardroom today. As I grabbed my bag, I thought back to where it all began, 15 years ago. The day I made a quiet decision. Let them think I failed. Let them underestimate me. Let them laugh. And now they would see. All of them. The family reunion was originally supposed to be held at a fancy hotel like it always was, public, polished, predictable, but not this year. This year, everything was different. Instead of showing up like everyone else, my plan was already in motion. Every family member would be picked up by my private cars, sleek black Rolls-Royces, and driven to a private jet I owned. That jet would take them to a location they weren't expecting. Our family reunion would be held on my private island. Yes, my island, in the Caribbean. When I told my mother about the change, her eyes widened. Your island, in the Caribbean? I nodded. I bought it last year after I closed my first billion-dollar deal. She stared at me, still trying to process it all. For years, she thought I was barely getting by, struggling, lost, going nowhere with my art and technology. She never imagined I'd become someone who owned an island. I turned to face her and spoke clearly. And Mom, this time I won't be the quiet one sitting in the corner while everyone talks about their careers and achievements. This time, I have something to say. She stood up slowly, smoothing her skirt with hands that trembled just a little. Your father, when he sees this, when he sees all of this, he'll have to accept it. He'll finally realize that his little girl, the one who he thought was just playing around with computer images, actually built something bigger than anything he ever imagined, bigger than his firm, bigger than the entire Sullivan legacy. I smiled gently, and that's just the beginning. I walked her toward the elevator. As the doors opened, I stopped her with one last thing. Oh, and Mom, you know that Bentley you've always dreamed of, but Dad kept saying it was too expensive. I bought 3 last month, just because I could. The doors closed on her stunned, speechless face. As soon as she was gone, I picked up the phone and called my assistant. Sarah, is everything ready for the reunion? Yes, Miss Sullivan, she replied without hesitation. The island staff is prepared. Every guest will receive a personalized folder with documentation of when they decline to invest in your company, along with the current value of those missed shares, and the video presentation of your journey, showing how you built your empire, is ready and queued. Perfect. I sat down at my desk and picked up my phone. The family group chat had been buzzing ever since the Forbes article went out. I hadn't replied yet, until now. Looking forward to seeing everyone at the reunion. Dress appropriately for a private island. Transportation will be provided. Then I opened my laptop. The Forbes article had already gone viral. My company's stock had shot up overnight. I'd made another $1 billion, before I'd even finished my morning coffee. I thought of my father. He was probably in his office right now, reading that article again and again, trying to figure out how the daughter he thought was a failure had become one of the richest people in the country, silently, and without any of their help. And my sister Olivia, the one who loved to talk about her 6-figure salary, her house in the Hamptons, her promotions and bonuses. She would realize now that I could buy her entire life with the money I made in interest in a single day. This reunion was going to be unforgettable. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from my father. We need to talk before the reunion. Family matters should be handled privately. I stared at the screen for a moment before typing my reply. Everything will be discussed at the reunion. Dad, isn't that what reunions are for, sharing our successes? Then I called Sarah again. Get in touch with the design team. I want the island's helipad repainted before the reunion. My name needs to be clearly visible from the air as the jets come in. It's already done, Miss Sullivan, she replied calmly. Anything else? I thought for a second, then said, yes, frame the Forbes article, hang it in every room at the island resort. I want it to be the first thing anyone sees, no matter where they go. After I hung up, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked confident, calm, powerful. For 15 years, they had doubted me, looked down on me, treated me like the family failure. But now, they were about to meet the real me. The woman who had quietly built an empire. The daughter who no longer needed approval. The sister who would no longer be pitted. And the Sullivan who would never be underestimated again.